Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Eric again here. This week I actually want to show you how to set up a virtual environment to test and to poke at. So we're going to need four things. First, you're going to need a virtual machine or VM software. Two main options are going to be VMware and VirtualBox. Next, you need your downloaded pen testing OS of choice. In this case, I'm going to use Kali Linux. I do recommend using Kali. The other options, Parrot's another big one. I don't have much experience with Parrot. I know it's a good OS and it's good there, but Kali's industry standard. So I just say, stick with what's industry standard. Stick with what you expect to use during your work. Next, you're going to need Metasploitable. That's actually a server that's intentionally left vulnerable in many ways, so you can test, you can poke, you can prod, and you can break it without getting in trouble, without violating any law, and without violating any rules. And third, we're going to need what's called BWAP. Now, there's two options for that. I'll go over in a minute here. And that's going to be a vulnerable web application with what they claim is like 100 different vulnerabilities on there. So you can poke your product that with things like server-side inclusions, SQL or SQL injection, depending on how you want to word it, or pronounce it, I should say. Tampering with hidden file parameters, all of that stuff. So however you end up working it, or whatever you kind of want to learn or to do, is going to be set up, and you're going to be able to play in this lab. And it's good to get a handle on both and a basic understanding on both, whether you want to be more of that the web application pen tester, bug bounty hunter, or if you're looking more to get into that deeper network pen testing, network hitting on that level. So let's take a quick flip over here to my desktop. You can see I already have both VMware Player 15 up as well as VirtualBox Manager. Now, they're both very easy, because if you actually go to Kali, Kali.org, we'll go here really quick, go over to Kali.org, it'll boot up here, as well as Metasploitable. So we go to downloads Kali. You got a couple different options when it comes to what you're going to download and what you're going to install. Your first couple ones you're going to see, this is going to be your most recent release. And these are going to be your ISO or your virtual image files. Those are going to take a little bit more work to install, a little more work to set up, but perfectly viable. What I would recommend actually is going down here, and at the bottom right in here, you have four options. Kali Linux 64-bit for VMware, 32-bit for VMware, 64-bit for VirtualBox, or 32-bit for VirtualBox. So kind of choose which one works best for you. So if you want to use VMware and you feel like running the 64-bit, go for it. Otherwise, if you're going to use VirtualBox, again, it's just going to be a different file, but it's right there for you. They're both going to be very quick, very simple, very easy to set up. So next, we're going to go to Metasploitable. This is actually hosted here by, if I can go there without hitting a bunch of random buttons. It's going to be Rapid7. It's going to be help.rapid7.com. I'm going to type it all in. I've already been there, done that. So products, Metasploit. We're going to drop down to setting up a vulnerable target. I'm just going to go to Metasploitable 2. It's actually going to be easier. Let's see. So we're going to go to sourceforge.net/project/Metasploitable. Now you have a couple options. This is going to be just your download one. So you can hit download. It's going to kind of bring it down. I'm not necessarily going to kind of worry about that too much. So once it pops up here, I'm actually going to cancel it, because I've already got it installed or downloaded. Let's see. Next is going to be ipsecgames.com, and this will be for BWAP. BWAP, the extremely bug web application. So we're just going to hit download here. You can click either link, whether it be the BWAP 1 or bbox. It'll bring you to SourceForge again. Now, if you click up here, you're going to download the total thing of BWAP. It's going to be all of the raw files. Now, the only downside to this is you're actually going to need to set up an Apache web server to host it. So if you're interested in doing that and you really want to learn that Apache website, the Apache web server side, go for it. Set it up that way. It's going to be a lot more work. Otherwise, you can just download the bbox web app, and that's just going to be your virtual machine disk file, or not disk file, excuse me, your virtual machine file, and we'll kind of go over that in a couple minutes because I got all of them sitting right over here. So once we're done with that, we go to our virtual box of choice. Now let's just start with the VMware because it's going to be quick and easy. We open a VMware, or open virtual machine, and then go to where you have your files downloaded. So it's going to be either bbox, Metasploitable, Kali Linux. So this time let's set up bbox. Pop in there. It's going to be your b.box.vmx. This is going to be your VM virtual machine file. So once you double click in there, it's going to pop it over here already. So let's go to edit. We're going to want to edit our virtual machine settings. Now this is just a basic Ubuntu Linux setup with BWAP already hosted on it. So I set up memory to 2 gigs, processors up to 1. I've already set all these up before because I've actually downloaded it and removed it just to kind of show you the process. So memory, they recommended memories too. My system is 8 gigs. The more memory you give it, the more you're taking away from your host OS, excuse me. But at the end of the day, I mean, you kind of determine how much you want to give it, how much do you have. If you got 32 gigs, don't be afraid to give it more. But really, it's just a kind of a basic web app we're just going to kind of poke and prod at, and it's really not going to be anything that's going to be too terribly resource intensive. So sitting with 2 gigs is going to be fine. Next, we're going to go here with our processors. Again, same thing. It'll default to whatever you have. I had a quad core, so it defaulted to 4. I dropped it down to 1. There's no reason to go over that. Again, basic web app that you're hosting. It's nothing too intensive, and if it's a little slow, it's a little slow. It's not the end of the world. Disk space will automatically default to 20. I left it there. Network adapters, we're going to need to change it. So what we're going to want to do is you actually want to come in here and hit bridged. And leave it at that, and that'll actually use your host system's connection type. So it'll be a wired connection to your host, but it will not share the host IP address, so it will have its own IP address, which is very important, especially when you come into testing to scanning and all that other stuff. You're going to want to make sure it has its own unique IP. USB controller, you can leave. Sound card, you can leave. Display, you can leave. You don't need accelerated 3D graphics. Now, when you're setting up Kali, though, you do, and I'll walk you through those settings here too. So we hit OK, and there you go. We're already good to go. But because VMware's only let me run one VirtualBox at one time, I'm not going to boot that up quite yet. But when we come into Kali, just to kind of show you how I have it set up, I've got 2 gigs of RAM. I'm actually going to, just for fun, I'm going to kick it up to 4. Because like I said, I have 8. Kick it up to 4. So if I run anything that's a little more resource intensive, I got that extra RAM. Processors, I'm going to leave it at 2. Again, leaving the extra 2 over here. Plus, we're going to take the one up for the other virtual machine that we're running at the same time. So we're just going to leave it at 2. Hard drives at 80. Minimum's 20. I recommend at least adding a little extra on there above and beyond the 20. When I set it up on VMware from the ISO file, I set it to 50. This defaults to 80. I'm leaving it there. So you do have that persistent storage for files and stuff like that you end up downloading, creating, whatever the case might be. Network app, again, you want to be bridged and make sure your replica's unchecked. Now display is where we do. If you have a dedicated graphics card with dedicated RAM, GRAM, graphic RAM, you want to make sure you check the accelerated 3D graphics, because that's going to give you that option to run those more graphic intensive processes such as password cracking and give you a little bit more of that oomph during it. But beyond that, those are both set up. So let's just boot this up, and we're not going to want to go full screen right off the bat. So if you do something as it's kind of booting up, it'll kind of freak out. Next, I want to show you guys how to set up Metasploitable. So what we'll do is in the same way as everything else. So we're just open virtual machine. Except instead of going to VBox or any of this other stuff, we're actually going to go over to Metasploitable to Linux VXM, the virtual file. There's no very quick, very simple, very easy, just like the other one. So now it's going to be a little bit different with the settings. So this is actually going to take a lot less power and a lot less requirements than it's going to be for BWAP or it will be for Kali. For either of those, it's going to be a lot less. And it's because there's no GUI, there's no graphic interface. It's all command line based. So you really don't need a lot of RAM. You really don't need a lot of processors. It all depends. If you've got one system and you're pretty much going to be the only one connecting to it, then your RAM really you can sit at this 256. It's going to default to 512 is what it's at. If you've got multiple people, if there's going to be a few of you that are going to be kind of working in this lab environment and practicing, and playing, and testing, then I would definitely then you could bump it up to 1. But other than that, if it's just you, just drop it down to 256. You could even go as low as 128. To me, quarter of a gig is nothing, so I'm just going to leave it at 256. There's no really reason to be so stingy with the RAM on this one. Same thing with processors. Set down to 1 core. You don't need to be running 4 cores on this unless you really want to for some reason. Same thing with RAM. Hard disk is only set at 8. This is just a virtual machine for basically testing, poking, prodding, and hacking. So leave it at 8. There's really nothing to it. Now, when we come over to our network adapter, just like the other two, we do need to set this to bridged. So we go to bridge, so it has its own unique IP address. So as we're doing things like if configs, or we hit it with nmap or anything like that, we can see. We can target specific addresses, specific ranges, and see what we can find on it. Now, VirtualBox managers will be very similar. So you'll hit the import button over here. Click this little guy over here, choose virtual file, and it's going to bring you up just like that. It's going to bring you over to the Windows Explorer. And this one's actually an OVA file. So double click on there, it'll import it, hit next. Now I already have it imported, so I'm not going to go through anymore, otherwise it takes forever. So that'll come through import, and that'll show you where it's going to kind of import to, include only NAT network adapter MAC addresses. I just left that normal, and I imported hard drives as VS. I didn't do anything too fancy with it. So then once it's done, it'll kind of bring you over to your virtual machine here. Now, here's where you want to kind of go in again, do the settings like you just did in VMware. It's just not quite as pretty, but you're also not paying $250 for a license. So as we name, advanced, you really don't need to change any of this stuff. Systems where we're going to want to start. System, it defaulted to me for 2 gigs. So if I really wanted to, I could jump that up to 4. I'm leaving it at 2. I'm not too worried about it. I know on the other one I did to 4, but that's also going to be my main system that I'm going to be trying to test it with, bug findings and stuff with. So I kind of bumped that one up. This one's going to be more for when I'm poking at like BWAP over here, which is booting up. Processors, again, you have the option, how many cores do you want? 1, 2, for how many ever you have in the system. Again, I'm going for 2. Actually, you know what, let's bump this up to 4. So I'm horrible with math. 496. So that'll bump it up to 4. So we're running that. Now display, just like in the other one, there's going to be video memory. And, oh lovely, it's got music apparently. As you can see, I've never booted this up before. So we're going to make sure we check the Enable 3D Accelerator. Just like we did on the other one, it gives you that access. It gives VirtualBox that access to a little bit more power. So now, last thing, we're going to pop down to network. Make sure we have Enable Network Adapter checked. You're going to choose it. It usually defaults to NAT. We want to make sure we go to Bridge Adapter, and then just kind of select which adapter you have there you want to use, and then hit OK. And now this is ready to go, and so if we hit start, it'll boot it up. I think many people here have seen Kali Linux. If you haven't, I mean, it's really nothing special. It's just a thing in Linux. So if you guys have any questions, have any issues with this at all, don't be afraid here to drop me a line. I have a Twitter account now. I will leave a link to it in the video description. Otherwise, you can drop me a line in the comment section. I'll be helpful to answer any questions. If you really want me to go into a lot more detail on how to install these with the ISO files, I'd be more than happy to do all that for you, to create a video on that one. Otherwise, as you're running through this, let me know. Please do subscribe. I'm trying to build this channel up. Please support me as I go through and I learn. Don't subscribe to my. Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as following me on Twitter. Thanks, guys and gals.